Imagine two giant wrestling empires, run by two of the biggest legends ever, deciding to team up. In one corner, you had the global phenomenon of Dallas, ruled by the superstar Von Erich family. In the other corner, you had the tough-as-nails Memphis territory, run by the one and only Jerry the King Lawler. In 1989, they merged to create the United States Wrestling Association. On paper, this was the ultimate dream team. You get a roster packed with icons and a fusion of two completely different wrestling styles, all to create a new powerhouse that could take on the WWF. This was their shot to build something that could dominate the entire wrestling world. But that dream turned into an absolute nightmare. This is a story of insane culture clashes, broken promises, and huge money problems that led to one of the most epic collapses in wrestling history. This is the story of how the USWA dream died, and what went so wrong when Memphis met Dallas. To understand why this merger failed so badly, you have to see how completely different these two empires were. They were both titans, but they could not have been more opposite. First up, Memphis. The CWA was Jerry Jarrett's company, but let's be real, it was Jerry Lawler's kingdom. Lawler wasn't just their biggest star, he was the entire center of their universe. After he beat his own mentor to become the king of wrestling, Memphis was his town. The weekly TV shows and the Monday night fights at the Mid-South Coliseum were legendary. The Memphis style was raw and personal. It was all about blood, guts, and making you believe every second of it. Lawler was a master at this. He held their main championship over 50 times. That tells you their whole strategy. Keep the title on your biggest star and line up guys to try and take him down. His feuds were iconic. It was a machine that printed money, all built around one guy. Then you have Dallas. If Memphis was a gritty back alley brawl, Dallas was a glistening Hollywood-style empire. Fritz von Erich rebranded his territory as World-Class Championship Wrestling, and it exploded. WCCW was next level, with high production values, rock music for entrances, and multiple cameras that made it all feel huge. The stars of WCCW were Fritz's sons, Kevin, David, Kerry, Mike, and Chris. They were treated like actual rock stars, and the fans worshipped them. The wrestling was super athletic and fast, the total opposite of Memphis. The territory's peak was the legendary feud between the Von Erichs and the fabulous Freebirds, which drew insane crowds and made WCCW famous worldwide. When Kerry Von Erich won the NWA World title in front of 45,000 people at Texas Stadium, it felt like they were on top of the world. But by the late 80s, that empire was starting to crumble. The tragic death of David Von Erich in 1984 was a blow they never recovered from. It was the first of many tragedies that hung over the family. Add in pressure from bigger companies and falling ticket sales, and the once mighty WCCW was in serious trouble. By the late 1980s, the wrestling world was shrinking fast. Vince McMahon's WWF was crushing everybody, stealing talent and buying up TV time. The old way of doing things was dead. To survive, you had to team up, which made an alliance between Memphis and Dallas an absolute necessity. Both companies were feeling the pressure. Jerry Jarrett's CWA in Memphis was making money, but it was small. He knew to compete he needed a bigger market, and Dallas was one of the biggest. Meanwhile, World Class was in a total nosedive. The family tragedies had destroyed them. Attendance was gone, and they were fighting just to survive. They had the famous name, but they were bleeding cash. They had already done a few crossover events, and they were a huge success. The biggest was at AWA Super Clash 3, where AWA champion Jerry Lawler beat WCCW champion Kerry Von Erich to become the first ever unified world champion. The event itself lost a ton of money, but it proved that putting their biggest stars together was electric. It was proof that a bigger deal could work. Behind the scenes, Jarrett, the smart Memphis businessman, started negotiating with the Von Erichs. He saw a golden opportunity. Combine his stable, money-making company with the world-famous brand of world class. On February 4, 1989, Jarrett and Kevin Von Erich officially created the USWA. While the exact details aren't known, the setup was simple. Jarrett was the majority owner with full control of the new company. The USWA was born. They sold it to the world as a legit new national powerhouse. The plan was massive. Run shows in both Tennessee and Texas, combining their tours and their fans. Jerry Lawler was the first champion, headlining in Memphis one night and Dallas the next. The stage was set. For a second, it looked like they were actually about to build an empire. In the first few months of 1989, the USWA was absolutely insane. It felt like a super promotion with a literal all-star roster. You had Memphis legends like Jerry Lawler and Bill Dundee, and Dallas icons like Kerry and Kevin Von Erich. The roster was stacked with rising stars like Cactus Jack and veterans like Jimmy Valiant. The best part was the mix of styles. It created dream matches fans had been dying to see. Memphis fans got to watch the high-flying Dallas stars, while Dallas fans got the intense brawling from Memphis. The whole thing felt new and unpredictable. The booking leaned into the history of both places and made for can't-miss TV. And at the center of it all was the USWA Unified World Champion, Jerry the King Lawler. He was the living symbol of the merger, defending the belt across both halves of this new kingdom. One week he'd be in Memphis, the next he'd be in Dallas fighting Kerry Von Erich. It made the new title feel like the biggest deal in the world. Storylines played on the Memphis versus Texas rivalry. In one of the most famous angles, the Dallas booker Erich had to fight to save World Class from a hostile takeover by the Memphis guys. It led to a crazy cage match that got the Dallas fans so invested that attendance temporarily went through the roof. They even merged their championships. The World Class and CWA tag titles became the USWA World Tag Team Championship. The Texas Heavyweight title was folded into the USWA. For a little while, everything was flowing perfectly, creating dream matches and making both territories feel important. The model was working. The dream of a new wrestling superpower felt like it was right there. But just as fast as the USWA rose, the entire thing started to explode. The dream of a unified empire slammed headfirst into the reality of two completely different cultures that hated each other behind the scenes. The biggest problem was a total clash of business styles. Jarrett ran Memphis like a machine. It was efficient, he watched every penny, and it was all about making profit. Dallas, on the other hand, was the Von Erich family business. Family drama and money problems were always tangled up in their decisions. This wasn't just a merger of two companies, it was a merger of a corporation and a monarchy, and it was a disaster. This immediately led to a power struggle. Jarrett had the controlling interest, so he had the final say. The Von Erichs, who were used to being kings in their own territory, now had to answer to him. Fritz Von Erich reportedly refused to let go of the world-class name, which caused massive arguments over the company's direction. And then came the money. As it always does, fights over profits became a huge problem. The Dallas side felt they weren't getting their fair share. People started throwing around accusations, and all the trust between them completely disappeared. The partnership turned toxic, with threats of lawsuits replacing all the early optimism. The breaking point came in September 1990, just over a year after the grand merger began. The Von Erich family and the Dallas side officially pulled out of the USWA. The alliance was dissolved. The dream was over. The super promotion that was supposed to challenge the giants had completely fractured from the inside. The great experiment had failed, and the fallout would be devastating. If you think this story is as crazy as I do me a favor and smash that like button. It tells us you want more deep dives like this, and it really helps the channel out. Now, back to the absolute collapse. The split in September 1990 didn't just end the dream. It started an absolute nightmare that the Dallas territory would never, ever recover from. After pulling out of the USWA, the Dallas group tried to bring back the old world-class name, but the magic was gone. Just 2 months after the split, with all their money gone, the revived world-class shut down for good. The Von Erich Empire was officially dead. That void was filled almost instantly. In 1991, a new company, the Global Wrestling Federation, GWF, launched in Dallas. They swooped in, got a TV deal with ESPN, and took over the famous Sportatorium. They hired a ton of the old WCCW wrestlers, basically picking up the scraps of the collapsed territory. For Texas wrestling fans, the GWF was the new show in town, and the USWA was already ancient history. While Dallas was imploding, the Memphis-based USWA faced an even bigger threat: the World Wrestling Federation. In 1992, Jarrett made a deal with Vince McMahon for a talent exchange. On the surface, it looked like it could save them. It would bring huge WWF stars to Memphis, which should have boosted ticket sales. Stars like Macho Man Randy Savage and Bret Hart all started appearing in the USWA. But it was a trap. While the WWF stars created some short-term buzz, the long-term result was a disaster. The deal created a one-way pipeline from Memphis to the WWF. The most catastrophic loss came in December 1992, when Jerry the King Lawler, the absolute heart and soul of Memphis wrestling, signed a full-time contract with the WWF. Losing Lawler wasn't just losing a top star, it was the promotion losing its entire identity. For 20 years, Memphis wrestling was Jerry Lawler. His feud with Bret Hart, which started in the USWA and spilled over onto WWF TV, showed everyone the new reality. Lawler was a WWF guy now. Other USWA stars followed. Jeff Jarrett was next, debuting in the WWF with his Double J gimmick. The talent exchange that was supposed to save the USWA was actually just turning it into a farm system for its biggest competitor. With Dallas gone, and its own king now working for the competition, the USWA entered its final, slow death spiral. From 1992 until it closed in 1997, it was basically just the old Memphis territory with a different name. It became the last true territory, holding on long after the entire system had died. The feel of the promotion changed completely. Jerry Lawler would still show up from time to time, and he would unbelievably hold the USWA title 28 times before the company folded. But the rest of the roster was a revolving door of random wrestlers, guys on loan from the WWF, and local talent. There was even a bizarre, brief partnership with ECW that saw guys like Tommy Dreamer show up in 1997. The biggest challenge, though, was the Monday Night War. When the WWF and WCW went head-to-head on Monday nights, it changed everything. Unfortunately for the USWA, its biggest shows had always been on Mondays. Suddenly, fans had a choice: pay money to see a dying USWA roster live, or stay home and watch Stone Cold and the NWO for free on TV. Attendance, which was already terrible, fell off a cliff. One show in October 1996 reportedly had only 372 fans show up. 372! The end came with a series of insane business deals. In 1995, Jarrett sold his part of the company. Jerry Lawler and a partner took over, but they immediately sold it to another group. Then, the final nail in the coffin. The partner, Larry Burton, was revealed to be a con man, which led to a massive lawsuit for fraud. Amidst all the chaos, the USWA quietly shut down in November 1997. There was no big finale. The last true territory just faded away. Looking back, the story of the United States Wrestling Association is absolutely tragic. It's the story of a dream that was probably doomed from the second it started. Merging two proud, powerful wrestling kingdoms was an insane gamble. It was the last desperate attempt for the old territory system to survive, and its failure was the perfect symbol for the end of an era. What we lost when the USWA died was more than just one company. It was the idea that regional wrestling could still compete on a national scale. The collapse proved that the small arenas and family-run promotions just couldn't stand up to the corporate power of the WWF and WCW. The failure sent a clear message: the future of wrestling was a monopoly. The legacy of the USWA is complicated. It gave us one last chapter of the Von Erich story. It was a launchpad for future megastars like Jeff Jarrett and even a young Flex Kavana, who you might know better as The Rock. And it holds the strange honor of being the last of the territories to fall. But mostly, it's a monument to what goes wrong. It's a huge cautionary tale about what happens with culture clashes and power struggles. Jerry Lawler unifying the titles was a historic moment, but the empire it was supposed to build was built on sand. When Memphis met Dallas, they created a dream. But when that dream died, it took an entire era of pro wrestling down with it. The USWA wasn't just another wrestling promotion. It was a shot at survival. It was the idea that two unique regional styles could unite to give fans a real alternative to the big guys. For a fleeting moment, that mix of Memphis grit and Dallas glamour looked unstoppable. But in the end, the very things that made the partnership so exciting were what tore it apart. Its collapse wasn't just a business failure. It was the final proof that the territory days were over for good. It leaves us with one of wrestling's biggest what-ifs. What if they could have solved the power struggles? What if they had just settled the money problems? Could a true third national company have actually changed the course of wrestling history? We will never know. What do you think? Could the USWA have actually succeeded, or was it destined to fail from the start? Let us know down in the comments. And if you want more stories about the territories, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next video.